I think we're ready to go. Um,
Okay.
I've hit the go live button, so here we are on Twitch. Uh, Hello everybody. My name is CD Trumpet Five, or Chris. You can see who I am here, and today we'll be discussing the first of my sci-fi fantasy novels called the Tomes of Sagittarius, which is a real. My glasses are like crooked. Hang on, I gotta fix them. Um, and with me today is a very dear friend of mine. His name is Paul, and he's here
Hi. Thanks for having me.
for sure. For sure. Paul has read these books, uh, and I assume you enjoyed them, or like at
I
least the
I
first
did.
one.
I was pretty engaged and I took notes. I'm a little rusty right now, but I've been reviewing my notes to kind of get ready for this. Um,
Nice.
'Cause I mean, and I've got to say, the fact that I'm rusty on it is an indication of how deep these books go.
Yeah,
Because
true.
if you're not, kind of refreshing yourself, there's just so much lore and information um, that that intertwines in various ways that it's easy to lose track of it all. Uh, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean that was kind of by design, it's like I'm a big George R. R. Martin and like what do you call it? Just lore freak. Oh, one thing I forgot about is I have all of my like sound alerts and like chat nonsense on, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to shut those off before the podcast starts. So we might get like interrupted by like random stuff. Um
Okay, that's probably fine.
yeah, it'll make for some comedic moments, but yeah,
Totally.
so you've read book 1, which is Universe 8, the intro to uh the Tomes series, the overarching Tomes series. Um and I just have to say the fact that you did take notes means the world to me, because it's like, I'm like, yes, this person cares about this as much as I do, you know? And
Yeah, well, I mean, I read the first several chapters, um, and it just became obvious as I read that I wasn't going to be able to understand everything as well as
right.
I without writing some things down.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to kind of get everything I could out of the books, and I found that to be very worthwhile. So um, yeah, I will be uh, continuing my notes in book two as well for sure.
Nice. Yeah, book two gets crazy.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I've read the first chapter.
yeah, the
Um,
prologue.
right, but I gotta sit down and read the whole thing still,
Mm-hmm.
which for sure.
Well, yeah, but we're here today since the audiobooks, the first two chapters of the audiobooks, the prologue and chapter 1, have just come out on YouTube. um so I wanted to do this podcast as kind of a way to um introduce people to this story, so they know what it's about. They might get more interested in it, and then they might read it, so we can have like little book club things and all of that fun stuff. But yeah, so with chapter 1 having been released, I figured we do a what is Universe 8 even about? What is this story? What are some of the fan theories and things about like the lore and like stuff, because I'm big into creating webs and mysteries and whatnot, and yeah. So Paul, where would you like to start?
I think maybe we could talk about the prologue of book one for a couple of
Okay.
reasons. It's the first thing that happens, obviously, so there's that. But I also think that, as far as I mean, I guess I haven't read the other books, but at least so far, it's the only chapter that takes place not in the afterlife. Uh,
Yes.
Unique in that way, and it also sets up the whole book, basically, or the whole series, I think, actually. Um, so I feel like
Yeah.
we there.
Yeah, so like with I just yeah, what's it called? The oh, I just lost my train of thought. That's not good. That'll probably happen a bunch. But um
Lost your train of thought. Your
yeah.
train.
Yeah, well, so the prologue chapters in the first couple of books, I think, take place on Earth. And that's
Oh,
sort
that's
of
that's right. I do remember the prologue is on Earth in book two as well. Although
yeah.
that's a very different type of prologue than than the one in book one. So
Yeah, yeah. And one thing we should probably state before we dive into actual like what like the story itself is the Tomes of Sagittarius is a story that takes place on a fictionalized afterlife where like it's debatable whether there is a god or not. And currently, oh, excuse me, it's run by a man who has affected like close enough to be a god like powers. And it's sort of like the gods are dead and humans have ruined heaven with their hubris, and there's wars and politics and like romance and all sorts of stuff, like kind of like it's almost like a second Earth. But as you
you
can
know,
see on the cover here, there's a few things that are different about the afterlife, um, as opposed to Earth. One being the flora is all red or purple. And there's things like that you'll see that make it different, that make it a little strange, almost like kind of like a uh well, it is a fantasy world, but yeah, that sort of thing.
uh,
But
I think your comment on it being a second Earth is interesting because it's like the typical um sort of depiction of the afterlife is of this kind of utopian paradise where you don't need to worry about all the problems of the world, and of
yeah.
course you go to the other afterlife. I guess there's the alternative, uh but in this case it's really all the same problems that you have in Earth you still have. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
you're in this afterlife, and you can still die. You can die
Yeah.
again. It
Yeah.
raises the question of what happens when you die in the afterlife.
Oh,
um and
it's well, there is a I think it's mentioned in book one that it's like when you die in the afterlife, that's it. It's just cut to black.
Yeah,
You're
it,
done.
it, it I do remember it being mentioned. I guess I personally kind of wondered, like, if that was just like somebody's like theory, or if that was like reliable narration or not. But you can tell me, or maybe you don't
Oh
want to say.
yeah. Well, I mean, every narrator is unreliable.
Yeah, that's kind of the impression I've had.
Yeah.
Uh,
They're kind of like they're all and I guess we'll do this when we get to chapter 3, but like when I was rereading this for the audiobook, I really noticed how like in chapter 3 especially, um characters who don't understand something sometimes will give their explanation for what a thing is, and it's like totally off base.
yeah,
Like, you know, like Peter explaining what the apocalypse are and whatnot. But we'll get to that. Um,
Sure.
but anyway,
Yeah.
so the prologue. Um,
Yeah. So I was just gonna say one more thing, which is that uh, this this place that he goes is not a utopian paradise. You can still die. There's still wars and politics and all that stuff.
yeah, you
Uh,
can have children
you can
too.
have children. Yeah, right. You can. There are people born in the afterlife. It's really more like a teleportation to a different dimension.
Hmm.
Um, you know, all of the problems that humans deal with on Earth is still they still all exist in this place. And in terms of like answering big philosophical questions like is there a god and stuff like that, there's still like some you know unknown there. There
Yeah,
is yes this king who reigns, who is a godlike figure and who has all these powers. And I think that's the main difference between this kind of dimension and Earth, is that there are powers that are um not that don't really exist in our universe, right? Like
yeah, yeah.
these kind of magical powers. But
There has to be
uh
magic, like there's got to be
yeah,
that sort of
right.
thing.
But you've got this king who has kind of attained, some kind of peak level of powers or near peak level. And there's also like previous kings, like the previous king Gregoros. Wait, no, he's the current
Yeah,
king.
Gregoros is the king
He's
now.
he's the current king, and people like use his name like God, like as a curse. They'll
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
you know, or like
Gregoros, damn it.
yeah, thank you, Gregoros, that happened.
Yeah,
So,
right.
but that being said, he is a real being. That you can go and visit in theory. I don't think anybody knows where he is, but
Well,
except
he
those who are close to him. But
Yeah, right. Like no one on Universe 8 has seen him. And that's another sort of baseline thing about this world is that there are 9 of these universes that were once whole, but then they split apart in this cataclysmic event called the Rift. Like think like I don't know, like Doom of Valyria level cataclysm, and like that's sort of the land split up and it to the point where but not in a way where it's like, oh, the ocean's filled in. No, there's like gaps in between, like dimensional gaps in between these universes where you can't pass through them supposedly. um and it's illegal to attempt it. You know what I mean? So it's
Mhm.
like Universe 8 is where the story takes place, but the sort of capital of the afterlife is on Universe 9 somewhere. I
Ah,
believe it's like in Mount. Let me check my epilogue notes. It's like in Mount Gid. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah,
so
Mount.
that's where the epilogue takes place. Then I guess I didn't realize that was on Universe 9, or I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and also just to kind of clear this up, because I was a little confused about it at first. These universes are not like universe in size. They're
No.
more small planets in size. Like
Yeah.
each might have a couple of continents or something like that. Um, and so when they were whole, they were maybe like what, like a large Earth or something, or
I would
um,
say somewhere in the realm of like it it's hard to say because no one knows whether the astral body is round or flat, um which is kind of
ah,
an interesting sort of, what do you call it, but it I would say the whole thing is many many times the size of Earth.
okay, but it's not like the size of a galaxy or something like that.
No, no, no. It's
The,
it, it's
the
yeah, it
yeah.
would be like a like, because Universe 8, I'd say, is probably like the size of like North America and like continental Europe and Africa. Like, like if you took like a chunk of that, like, so like the Atlantic Ocean, like Peter takes like, I don't know, like 2 to 4 days to cross the Moon Sea. And actually, then
Mhm.
there's stuff like to the east and west, like ocean that goes on for who knows how far that no one has returned from when they explore it. So they
Right,
kind
one
of
of
don't
many
really know
mysteries.
how big they are.
Yeah. Okay. So but it's definitely like a. I mean, picture like all of them would be a very like a large planet, like maybe I'm just gonna say like Saturn sized or Jupiter sized or something, and then they
Yeah,
all,
that's probably accurate.
but
Yeah.
like a large planet, and then they all split into these bodies that would maybe all be considered like a smaller planet on their own,
Mm-hmm.
but necessarily round. They're kind of like flat, and then there's like a void in between them. It leads to another one or something
Mm-hmm.
along those lines. And the void was created in, I guess it was the Rift War, which is like this sort of ancient war that happened. Um,
Well,
and like
that's an interesting take. It's the void filled the space in between them, but it wasn't. The void was always there.
oh, interesting. So it was more okay. I see. So it was more rather than they like separated that they just the space in between them sort of caved in.
No, they de facto separated.
Okay.
But that's one thing I can confidently say without spoiling anything is like the rift happened almost exactly the way it's described. Like it like just set like each landmass just well not landmass, but each section separated and you know, now they all occupy space inside the void, but the void is in the middle.
I see. Okay.